Places in town. Visit thewindow.depot.com to find a location near you. That's thewindow.depot.com. Stores are open Monday through Saturday, but they also offer online ordering and no-contact delivery. The Window Depot. Lowest prices, biggest inventory.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
Are you ready for summer? Wherever summer takes you, make sure you take your favorite radio station with you on your adventures with the free iHeartRadio app. That's right. No matter how far from home you travel, this station, the music you love, and the best podcasts in the world will be right there with you in your pocket.
Summer soundtrack.
Sunscreen, flip-flops, and the free iHeart app. Must-haves for any summer checklist. Download the free iHeartRadio app and discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love this summer.
iHeartRadio. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Either of those names, most of those places, you'll be able to find us as we continue our mission to have, well, live local talk radio here in the borderland and get to as many of the particulars as we can of the impacts that they have here and what it means for you and me that actually live in the region. So if you wanted to chime in during the show as Flaco Jimenez, welcoming us all to Taco Paso. Yes, that's why I was very careful with my diction right there at the start of the show here, making sure that you're not confused for some random food blog, though I guess we could do that too. In any case, you're more than welcome to chime in over on the social media, as we also have dropping those likes, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. We do appreciate all of that, as well as phone lines open up a little bit later in the show. We mentioned a little bit yesterday what we're going to be focusing on here today, but energy is definitely a concept first and foremost in my mind lately. A whole lot of topics, but there's a lot of stuff swirling in and around the region that might be not quite affecting us directly here, but you can almost literally see it from here, but also supplies, energy power, just all that kind of stuff, as well as a lot of other national things. Also going to be joined a little bit later in the hour, as we usually are on Wednesdays, by Estefania Seifert, investigative reporter with KFOX, in a pre-recorded interview when she was available out of town today, but we're still going to be talking with her about some important stories, including things you might want to be worried about as we're entering these summer months, moves happening, all that kind of stuff, and making sure you, well, keep it safe out there, among other things. Of course, that heat definitely sticking around. I know that I have been probably testing the limits of the AC units wherever I happen to be. Got one pointed at me right now from across the studio here because, yeah, it's been more than a little bit hot out there. And I know, don't worry, we're not turning into a news channel, but into a weather channel as opposed to just the news that we do. But seriously, there are some heavy impacts that could be coming from this. And with those temperatures sticking around, among other things, the city of El Paso, as we'll hear more from our news partners a little bit later, has, of course, put out some of the cooling centers now, and also have more information out about how to get fans and how to just make sure you stay safe. So it's going to continue to be quite the week here. But of course, it's more than just the transient weather that's going to be at issue here for the near future, and not even just for our region as well. You may recall earlier in early parts of the year, May, among other things, that there was actually a call out from ERCOT, the, of course, Electric Reliability Council of Texas, to which we are not actually a part of here in El Paso. One of the many things that separates us from the rest of the state, besides distance, terrain, time zone even, is, of course, us not being technically part of the rest of the Texas grid and not a whole lot of interconnections happening there. That, of course, has come up in different circumstances whenever you talk about, the winter storms that have come through and that had, knocked out other parts of the state. And there were continuing concerns even now about that and the supply being available, very specifically that there's going to be not enough power actually out there. So there's a couple of ways that this is hitting. Again, in Texas, again, ERCOT looking at the possibilities of that as it had come up previously in even this year. And with these serious temperatures coming up, we're not even the hottest in Texas right here. There are some parts that are on the ERCOT system that are looking at some higher temperatures. Again, I was mentioning like the Eagle Pass and Del Rio areas. There's a lot of reasons I live in El Paso, and this is just another one of them. But even further highlighting that is that there's even concerns in Midwestern states and, of course, others about the reliability of the electrical supply given the anticipated demands coming up this summer. John Browson saying, sorry, if you use your air conditioner at work, I can't use mine at home. There's not enough electrical power. That almost sounds like a joke, but honestly, that could be a real circumstance and situation coming up here. I'm just using the one. We got those fancy mini splits installed here on our area and the office here as a replacement for some of the big old clunky like rooftop units kind of thing. So no, I'm not using that much, but that actually is kind of the problem. Among other things, the changes in how power is used have shifted over only the last couple of years. Used to be, okay, you could reliably expect that at-home power usage will go down during the day. It'll be up in other areas, but now it's kind of up everywhere, as there is still plenty of work from home going on even within our region, and in fact, maybe even more from our region because of the fact that, well, if you actually have a dedicated and not temporary work from home kind of situation, well, it doesn't really matter where you live as long as you got good internet. And I have heard other small towns, Midwest among them, come up. Actually, I have someone I went to college with has become a minor notable celebrity for telling people, hey, move to my small town because housing prices are dirt cheap and we got great internet. Like literally, it's a sales point here. Just a microcosm example from my life. But beyond that, yeah, it's a problem because the grid was literally not designed to deal with that. It's all about anticipation of patterns. And sure, when those stay stable, you can anticipate them and take appropriate action. But when they aren't so stable, such as, massive subsidal upheaval generating out of a pandemic that caused serious differences in how people live, work, eat, sleep, play, etc. Yeah, that's the kind of upheaval that can really bring some trouble to your expectations. I mean, think about the supply chain and how many things have changed there because of changing demands, production, etc. You can also see the similar thing when it comes to the electrical supply. Though, of course, you're not going to the store to get that one, but still, similar kind of supply chain issues can affect it, which is why, among other things, actually the Biden administration is now invoking the Defense Production Act in order to, well, facilitate the production of both electrical supply writ large kind of things, but also in general, well, just reading from the actual release from energy.gov, President Biden invokes Defense Production Act to accelerate domestic manufacturing of clean energy. And if you're wondering about what some of those phrases mean, subtitled DPA, Defense Production Act, invocation will boost American production of critical technologies necessary to lower energy costs, support the clean energy economy, and strengthen national security. Now, of course, this is a headline coming out of a government agency, so grain of salt, just indulge me for a second here. Further announcing that, of course, this week, 5 major areas that are going to be used to utilize the Defense Production Act, quoting here, to accelerate domestic production of 5 key energy technology. 1, solar. 2, transformers and energy grid components. 3, heat pumps for insulation. And 5, electrolyzers, fuel cells, and platinum group metals. Finishing out the lead paragraph here, the DPA determinations are part of the Biden-Harris administration's plan to lower energy costs for families, strengthen national security, and achieve lasting American energy independence that reduces demand for fossil fuels and bolsters our clean energy economy. So you may notice in the priorities being set there, that's the end of the quote I'm reading from there, that there are specific things being put there. Again, solar is literally number 1. Transformers and electrical grid components. That has a level of use. I know that there's been even reporting locally, including from El Paso Inc., on the idea that is holdup of some of these just grid components has been causing not even just larger issues, but individual like hookups of new construction have been delayed for sometimes on the order of months because of a lack of availability of those components. So makes sense. Heat pumps, not quite as much of an issue in, well, our neck of the woods, but in the places that actually have winter as opposed to the trial run that we have every year. Heat pumps replacing the idea of traditional heaters, gas or otherwise. And then insulation, level of sense there. I mean, I wouldn't buy a house around here that didn't have insulation. But then also then electrolyzers, fuel cells, and platinum group metals. fuel cells in general are those particular machines that you wouldn't be totally blamed for mistaking them for a generator, but essentially it uses fuel, and instead of necessarily directly burning it and then into like a combustion engine, so to speak, utilize it in a slightly different fashion. I'm not an expert on this, so forgive my very brief explanation of it. Directly uses it to produce electricity. So again, you wouldn't be totally blamed for wondering what the heck is the difference between that and a generator. Essentially, well, they do the same thing. That's all I'm going to say. But so, yeah, a lot of questions about this here. Flaco Jimenez saying, keep the blinds shut so that your AC doesn't work as hard. In this area, frankly, I got no windows in this part of the building. So check mark there for me here. Him also saying, how about appointing an energy secretary who knows what they're doing? On that note, the transportation, defense, and Fed chair as well. I'm reading my in between the lines there of an et cetera remark there. And RJ saying, along with that list, 6 unicorn and butterflies flapping their wings. Yeah, there's again a very clear, well, political purpose behind this. I mean, as much as I like the idea of there being more energy generation, the focus on a lack of other things, as Calvin Williams also joins us over on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Good afternoon to you as well. Yeah, this one has, well, we've talked a lot about how we need to embrace reality in these situations, that sure, setting goals long term, yeah, that's a decent idea. But if we're not addressing immediate concerns and essentially saying, well, you better jump off this cliff and hope that we've built the cushion at the bottom by the time we get there, that's a bad plan. I'm just going to say that flat out here. And quoting U.S. Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm on this, saying that President Biden has invoked the Defense Production Act so that the U.S. can take ownership of its clean energy independence. For too long, the nation's clean energy supply chain has been over-reliant on foreign sources and adversarial nations. My note here, China, but continuing on with their quote, with this new Defense Production Act authority, the Department of Energy can strengthen domestic solar, heat pump, and grid manufacturing industries while fortifying America's economic security and creating good-paying jobs, lower utility costs along the way. Now, of course, the question that comes up in my mind, and I'm assuming more than a few of yours, is what about existing infrastructure? Because sure, again, long-term course, diversifying production sources, making America energy independent, which is a phrase that has come up. So all sounds great, but is this really going to do it? And in what time frame are we talking about? Because we're doing this now, and we already got this summer coming along saying that, well, there might be rolling blackouts in certain places. Knock on wood, not El Paso. Have some faith, but only time will tell. This, even if this was going to be a yes, it will be able to be up and running very quickly and solving all of the issues, might be a little late for this coming summer, which makes me wonder the viability of this plan overall. But that's just a little bit, of course, of, well, what's going to be going on here today. Maria Coleman mentioning there's not as many cooling centers available because at least half of El Paso recreation centers remain closed. That is an issue, and one that will be getting addressed and talked about, at least in general, of what the availability is right now from, again, our news partners over on KFOX 14. And, well, some further commentary coming in here to Calvin Williams saying, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. I didn't realize we were renaming El Paso and a good chunk of the rest of the state to the kitchen, but hey, I'll support that ballot initiative. And John Brazelton saying that that's why the city manager was able to save $2 million and change. Yeah, there's some discussion to be had there, but we got to take that first break of the hour here right now. Coming out of this break, we will be getting into that interview with Estefania Seifert and our news partners over there at KFOX 14, talking about, among other things, some seasonal things beyond even just the heating, cooling, and energy situation that you might want to be aware about, as a lot of people tend to look at home improvement, dealing with things, moves, renovations, etc. during these months. There are certain things you might want to be aware of, plus a lot more discussion about some other important stories. So stay tuned for more on that and everything else coming up after this break here with more Talk El Paso airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Again, coming out of this break, Estefania will be in with us in a pre-recorded interview as she is out of town today. Wishing her safe travels, but talking more about that and a lot more of the issues affecting us here in the borderland after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. If you are looking for some good presents, shall we say, there are almost always some kind of appropriate gift-giving holiday around the corner, shall we say. Oh, just that little thing known as Father's Day coming up. Whatever you consider that, or even if you're looking for something good for yourself, you might want to consider dropping some hints right now to get some of the great supply available from our friends and partners over there at Enhanced flavors. Of course, we've been telling you about their 40 plus different varieties of extra virgin olive oils, flavored olive oils, and balsamic vinegar sourced from the best places in the world. You can find these. The balsamic vinegars, of course, straight from the Modena province of Italy. Otherwise, it doesn't count as balsamic vinegar. Know your sources, where this is coming from. Plus, they're different olive oils from the best places for those: Spain, Italy, Greece, and more. So they got the list of where it is, Tunisia, among others. And you can find their full selection online, enhancedflavors.com. Again, that's enhanced with a D, flavors.com, but also out in the community. You definitely want to stop by, see their full selection, and even be able to try it for yourself. That's the real magic of seeing them in person, why I'm always glad to do so. They're going to be out this Saturday at the Country Club Farmers Market at 1071 Country Club Road. That's 1071 Country Club Road, Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So make sure to check them out there, see their flavors. And of course, if you're placing your online order, don't forget about that discount code they have up now. Go to order your order online at enhancedflavors.com and enter the discount code EF Radio at checkout as in Enhanced Flavors, EF Radio. And you'll get that 50% discount on your next order just in time for Father's Day, delivered locally. Don't need to even go out of town or around the world to get those great flavors. Again, all the information, enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Checking your latest El Paso traffic. Gateway Boulevard northbound at Fred Wilson still has the 3 middle lanes blocked there. Only the right turn lane is clear. I-10 westbound at Vinton, all lanes are reopened now after that earlier vehicle fire. Police medical still working on an injury accident from earlier Joe Battle Boulevard northbound at Edgemere. And Gateway Boulevard northbound at Hercules, an injury accident. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America.
If you like storytelling that isn't woke, then listen to Red Pilled America. This week, we tell the origin story of the transgender movement. Listen to Red Pilled America every week on the free iHeartRadio app. That's Red Pilled America. You're going to love it.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer. That's your regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is the leading cancer killer, but can be prevented with regular screenings starting at age 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today and visit cdc.gov/screenforlife for more information.
New on Curiosity Street.
Just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean you can't.
Watch Earth's greatest minds forge our path to a better tomorrow. It's engineering the future. And Jaws, Star Wars, The Godfather, E.T. The biggest movies have even bigger music, from King Kong to The Dark Knight. See how musicians scored Hollywood's greatest hits on great film composers' music of the movies. Watch now on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
Radio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. This spring, you can share your own observations about nature with scientists and play a critical role in scientific discovery by adding to their data collection. Discover more about citizen science programs such as monitoring weather, observing plants and animals, and more. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Here's a message just for the attorneys out there. So you passed the bar, joined a firm, or even built your own. Now are you finding out that you're doing more administration than actual law practice? Lexicon can help. Lexicon is a legal technology provider with over a decade of experience streamlining administrative tasks like timekeeping, billing, and more, so you can focus on maximizing billable hours and increasing client satisfaction. Call 855-4-LEXICON or visit lexiconservices.com/go to learn more.
Weather and traffic info. You need it? We have it. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed. News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Joined right now here in studio, as we are on most Wednesdays, by Stephanie Seifert, investigative reporter with our news partners at KFOX 14. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Absolutely happy to have you on, because talking about some of the local reporting and important things is, well, important to me and to our audience here. So getting into some of the issues that we see at, well, this time of year. I mean, let's just set the stage here. We are getting into, of course, it already has felt like summer, but the actual summer months here, school letting out, graduations having largely gone on already. So this is also a point in time when people are having events and also maybe looking to move, make changes to their house, those kind of things. And both of those sets of issues can come with a lot of money, which means that there might be people who want to take advantage of that.
Yes. And so there have been several stories that I've covered regarding people who have gone to, let's say, a venue or a contractor, someone to renovate their home. They've signed contracts, they've given money, and then they do not get what they paid for. And so these are the stories that I've focused on for a little bit, because I try to be, the middleman, between the two, to go to said company and ask, why did this person not get their money's worth of this or that, or why were the renovations not completed, but you took the money. And those stories, believe it or not, I get so many emails about people who say, I paid so-and-so this much money for this, and I didn't get what was agreed upon. And one particular story was of a man who had hired a contractor for renovations to his home. Like you mentioned, it's the summer, people have free time, to get just home improvements done. And so that was the case for him. He wanted to make a lot of changes to his home to include the outside, the roof, and the inside. This contractor that they hired went in, completely gutted the house. It was just sticks, you could say. Took money. They have the receipts. They showed me these homeowners. They showed me the receipts of all the money that they put into it, the contract that they signed with the contractor, and they just never heard from him. He stopped going after he gutted the house. And they've been trying to get a hold of him. They couldn't. They didn't know what to do. So they went to me and they asked, what do we do in a situation like this? And so I did reach out to that contractor. The contractor did speak to me and say that he was behind on orders and on work orders, if you will, because of the pandemic, and that he would eventually get to that house. And I then went to the Better Business Bureau. And so I learned that there are businesses that have a Better Business Bureau accreditation. And so that's important to some businesses, because a lot of people depend on the Better Business Bureau for reviews when they're going to hire someone, right? So they do not want negative reviews, or they do not want to be kicked out of that, accreditation group, if you will, for something like that. And so what happens is the Better Business Bureau will look into a case if someone reports an incident like that, with a company that has their accreditation, and they basically go to the company and say, how are you going to resolve this? This needs to be resolved. If it doesn't get resolved, then they do take their accreditation away. So that's one way that you could fix it, is by going through the Better Business Bureau. Also, just reviews. I've done stories on roofing companies where people have gone through Google reviews to try and find out if it's a reputable company or not. And when they haven't had a very good experience, which is the case in one story that I did a story on, they left a Google review. And their hope was, if I share my story, other people won't have the experience that I went through. And so just knowing your resources of when you're about to go into a contract with someone. Another story was regarding a venue. They had signed a contract with a venue, paid them in full and payments at the time. At the time they were making monthly payments. I think they in total had paid $7,000 for a party, which ended up getting postponed because of the pandemic. So, once they actually felt like, okay, I think things are better, we can have this party, the venue said, it's been too long. Sorry, we can't, the money's gone. So that one, I did speak with a lawyer who has experience with contracts, and he just kind of walked us through what you can do, what to look out for the next time you are going to sign a contract, or just even on the flip side, if you're the business and feel like you need to change up your contract because of situations, like the pandemic. A lot of contracts don't have a pandemic clause. So that was, that's something that we also looked into as well. So yeah, I mean, if I know a lot of you have probably experienced the same, possibly. And so if there's a similar issue that you all have come across with a company or whatnot, let me know. And I'd love to look into it. And hopefully there's some sort of resolution that can come from that.
And again, if people want to get a hold of you for this or any other kind of work that you do, or does further investigations on here, what's the best way for them to do so?
Right. So my email is eyseyffert@kfoxtv.com. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, and you can also message me through there.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Estefania Seifert, investigative reporter with KFOX 14. If you want to find her work, again, kfoxtv.com under the Investigates, KFOX 14 Investigates tab. And of course, you have more reports coming out tonight, of course.
Yes. So filed an open records request for an incident that happened at a fire station here in El Paso. It was a police report that was filed. There appears to be vandalism happening. The report says that firefighters have reported this has happened several times. Some of the things listed on there were that, rocks are thrown at vehicles that belong to firefighters while they're, on their shift. The firehouse gets vandalized. And so the story is about going to the fire department, the chief, and asking, what are you doing to ensure the safety of firefighters if this is something that firefighters are saying is a continuous issue?
Yeah, there's a little bit of security. Had a recent, when I was going to vote, I actually did it at a fire station and some of the recent votes. And there's a vaguely fenced in lot that has a gate on it at the fire station I was at, but I don't think that would necessarily stop rocks being thrown or, further tagging or anything like that. I guess I just don't get the mentality at all. Seriously, firefighters, you're going to be doing this to firefighters, the guys that will come and rescue you out of a burning building. I don't get that mentality, but I guess I'm not inclined towards it either. So that'll be an interesting one to look at what is being said about it. So again, that'll be coming up this weekend, or this evening rather, on KFOX 14 News at 9 when all of your reports air.
Yes, of course. And all those stories that I previously mentioned that had to do with consumer issues can also be found on that KFOX 14 Investigates tab on our website.
And just back on that, with what's going on again with the summer, people getting out, wanting to do work, moving, and maybe looking at, doing changes with either the house they're leaving or the one they're moving into. Of course, Better Business Bureau accreditation is an important tool to look at. But are there any other tips that have come out of this of how you even structure your contract when it comes to dealing with this? Or oftentimes it's mentioned a little bit here, but I feel like I've also known people who've said there are certain pay schedules as well that not all the money up front, among other things.
Yes. So, there's different things you can do to do your research ahead of time, right? And I think a lot of times we're used to just diving right into something and we're like, we want a renovation. We're going to go with this contractor. Let's sign and let's do it. Here's the money. And you really have to do a lot more work than that nowadays. Remember that story of the dog, the lost dog, where they were being scammed through a lost dog sign. There's just so many ways that people can be deceived. And so you just have to really be careful, really do your research, especially when you're finding people online to do the work. Try and get recommendations from people. That's why looking at reviews is important. That's why I mentioned the Better Business Bureau, because a lot of times if people are upset, they will post a review on the website, especially on the Better Business Bureau, just because that's the more recognized or known site for that. But I think in the more of these stories I do, the more I realize how important it is to consult with an attorney whenever you're dealing with large amounts of money.
And contracts.
Yes. Anytime you're going to sign a contract, I feel like it's very standard for people to just be like, okay, yeah, I'm just, I'm going to do this. It's standard. Gonna book an event with this venue, and it's standard for me to sign a contract. You just don't know. You really need to read the fine print. And if you do not understand it, have a lawyer explain it to you. Because yeah, I mean, they say it themselves. They're like, you have no idea how many of these situations we've, had to go through where we have to explain to people, well, it's because the contract says this, and maybe there's no way around it. Maybe there is a way around it, but it's something only really a lawyer would be able to help you with. There are also sites that will help you look up licenses for businesses.
Yeah.
Just to see if they're insured, bonded, if they're legitimate companies and not just made up companies. Anyone can just, make a website. But if you need to have permits or licenses, especially when you're dealing with a contractor or someone who's going to go in and renovate your home or make changes to your home, definitely look up those licenses, with the city or with even just within the state. There's so many permits that need to be pulled and that they need to have as a company to be able to do that type of work. So it does take a little digging, but I think it's worth it in the end, considering there's so much money involved.
Yeah. And whenever you start getting into those thousands, tens of thousands of dollars we're talking here, there are going to be people who smell some profit without much work having to go on their end. So this is not by any means to say that anyone involved in this is going to be maybe shady, but there are definitely an attraction for shady people to areas like this. So forewarned, forearmed, doing your due diligence on your own hand can save you a lot of grief in the long run, potentially here. Again, guest right now has been Estefania Seifert, investigative reporter with KFOX 14. Want to get a hold of her, and find them over on the reports on kfoxtv.com under the Investigates tab, or also on her social media, and your email one more time.
Yes, EYSEYFFERT@kfoxtv.com.
All right. So thank you very much for coming in and talking with us about some of your reporting, some things people need to be aware of as we get into this season, of course, and some of the reports you'll have coming up here tonight.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to next week.
Absolutely. We'll talk further there. So we got to take that next break right now. And coming out of the break, we'll, of course, open up the phone lines as we do after we talk with Estefania to talk more about, your suggestions. So if you want to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Getting to those calls, comments, and a whole lot more after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erika Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. Excessive heat has settled into the borderland and can pose a risk to your health. The city has now opened cooling centers to provide an indoor air-conditioned environment for those who need to cool down throughout the day. And there's a collaboration between the El Paso Office of Emergency Management, the City of El Paso Parks and Recreation, and the Extreme Weather Task Force. The Galatsan Rec Center, Chalio Acosta Sports Center, Veterans Rec Center, Chamizal Rec Center, Valle Bajo Community Center, and Marty Robbins Rec Center will be open Monday through Thursday from 9 to 8, Friday and Sunday from noon to 7. Those in need of a fan for their homes can request one for free by dialing 211 and then press 1 for the first option. Those who are eligible for a fan include senior adults, those living with a disability, and those with little children who don't have adequate cooling in their homes. We are in a streak of triple-digit temperatures. Please stay safe. I'm Erika Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We've had a little moisture move back into the borderland, and that could actually help to trigger a stray shower or storm going into the evening. But after midnight, things should begin to improve. Overnight temperatures tonight in the lower to mid-70s. We'll see another round of possible stray showers or storms for Thursday. But with this increase in moisture, look for more clouds and a slightly cooler forecast for Thursday. Unfortunately, we heat up quickly for the weekend.
This report is sponsored by Napa Auto Parts. At Napa, when it comes to serving you, their motor never quits. From curbside and next day delivery on over 160,000 auto parts to getting involved with the local communities. That's Napa know-how.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Hey, it's Mario Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 on News Radio 690 KTSM, breaking down the impact of the news on the borderland and beyond. Brought to you in part by Mission Del Rey Southwest, Souvenirs, Gifts, and Decor. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
It's likely you've read some of the many Curious George books, but you might not know the story behind the couple who wrote them. You'll hear how these 2 authors escaped Nazi Germany. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
If you think making false threats is a joke, think again. Any communication threatening students, teachers, and staff at schools or public places is a federal crime that could lock people behind prison doors for up to 5 years.
I'm FBI Deputy Director David Bowditch, making you aware that hoax threats have real consequences. We don't want to see a young person begin their adult lives with a felony record.
Making false threats is not a joke. Think before you post. Visit FBI.gov.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. We, of course, have those phone lines open right now. If you wanted to chime in that way, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of interesting comments coming in there. Flaco Jimenez, RJ, John Brazelton, Calvin Williams, Maria Coleman, and more tuning in, chiming in over there. Also dropping those likes, which we do appreciate. Esteban Bustillos, Calvin Williams, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. Flaco saying, among other things, used to work for a reputable contractor. It was hard to compete with all the fly-by-night competition because they didn't have the overhead of an actual office, secretary, advertising, and insurance. Yeah, caveat emptor is definitely applies there, because the less infrastructure, business infrastructure, I guess, the way to put it here, is able to, just do these kind of things. If you're not paying attention to it, it's a red flag for me. Anyway, places like, oh no, totally. It's you just need to stop by. My living room's a little bit messy, but it'll be fine. Yeah. RJ also saying scamming contractors have been around since the first roof leak at the Isleta Mission. At least it seems that way. Third oldest profession, maybe would be a good way to put it here. Scam artists here. And John Browton letting us know that wind's starting to pick up out near the airport. Yeah, we do have some of those weather changes coming in, at least maybe a little bit, but we're still dialed in with that heat. And so that heat, of course, one of the topics we're discussing here today. Don't want to think I forgot about anyone's calls yesterday, but it seemed to fit a little bit better today because, of course, you got the couple of ways you can leave us messages in between shows. We, of course, have the pound 250 system in which you dial that and are able to, leave us a message day or night, or the talkback feature over on the iHeartRadio app. This one left on the pound 250 feature. Commentary again on the power situation in the region.
With the exception of El Paso, the rest of you Texans are in deep doo-doo. Your butter is going to be melting, your beer is going to be hot, and your cowboy hat's going to shrink because your individual thought process about how you want to do electric stuff is going to come crashing down in flames. So what do you think about that when you come election time? And vote for that Abbott Costello guy. Think about that.
Again, a lot of conversation going on about the power supply, fuel costs, all that good stuff here. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be a feature of this summer. And I'm just saying, maybe look at getting some good fans for yourself here, though maybe battery powered, shall I say here. But let's go back to those phone lines right now. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We got Nate on the east side of the line with us here right now. Nate, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. And as always, God bless you. It's a wonderful program that you do. And good afternoon
El Paso. I just want to say, Andrew, I was listening the other day and I heard a gentleman say that he was encouraging you to have another hour added to the show.
Mm-hmm.
I screamed out, yes. So if it is down the road there, you got my vote. Also,
fair enough.
I would just like to say that I want to thank all the people throughout the city of El Paso and around the Fort Bliss area, Northeast, West Side, Las Cruces that came that placed the flags and assisted with recovery. It was a blessing in many ways. And I encourage everyone, when you get out and do things like that, we find out that we have more in common than we are that's not alike. And that brings us together, such as when tragedy happened, if you notice, people start doing things for one another that they normally wouldn't even do. And it brings them out of that horrible feeling, or people grow, closer. Well, that same process works if we do it daily, such as your show. You got perhaps thousands of people listening to this program, and the fact that we can communicate together in many ways, bringing us closer together. So I just want to encourage everybody. El Paso, we have a wonderful city, and the city is not just something fictional. The city is in us, our personnel, our characters. Again, personal responsibility. Let's do it and help someone. Okay, thank you for the time, Andrew. I'll surrender this for somebody else's time. Okay.
No, absolutely. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
You have a good one out there. I mean, I appreciate the work that you've done, of course, with some of these things. I mean, Memorial Day is both a name and an action that should be done there. So remembering that and actually taking the time to display that is important, if only for the people that are still around and living, and remembering those who have, of course, made the sacrifice before. But even just getting out, doing something. Yeah. There's a phrase that an old boss of mine used to use, gobcob. Meant to specifically get off butt and knock on doors, but you can kind of take the similar philosophy, I guess. Maybe not the knocking on door stuff, but get off butt and do something. God, I don't know what that would be the acronym for, but seriously, doing something as opposed to just, I mean, I'm fully encouraging of talking about it. Do not get me wrong. The act of conversation can be cathartic in its own way, but even then, I mean, there's another phrase out there, touch grass, go outside, do something. Sure, not a whole lot of grass out there at Fort Bliss National Cemetery, but you get the point. I think by getting out, doing something, and taking part in the community is, I think, foundational in a lot of ways here, which is why, among other things, I harp on voting here. A lot of comments coming in on that as well. RJ saying someone did an actual working rain dance. Let's hope they release that recipe, of course, for how they did it. And Kathy Godry saying, scammers are always looking for their next victim. Consumer beware. Yeah, that is unfortunately always out there. Let's get to another call on the line here before we get to that next segment here. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have a call on the line here. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hey, Andrew, this is Raul.
Hey there, Raul.
So tomorrow, I could just hardly wait. It's going to be the biggest show in the world. I can't believe what's going on in this country, that this is happening. But on other topics, the United States, economic and military power, as you know, won World War II. The government, in partnership with the military-industrial complex, split the atom, sent man to the moon and back, won the Cold War with militarily outspending our enemies, sent them into poverty. But did all those amazing scientific, technological, organizational, national goals with the people's taxes. And the U.S. did this through agencies like DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, then its satellites and the internet. All these things took cooperation between government and industry. Now, the fossil fuel plutocrats have America and the world's economies hooked on their poison. And they have their purchased politicians, predominantly in the Republican Party, hooked on their money. And the U.S. government spends billions per year on national defense, having troops stationed throughout the world. We spent $754 billion in 2021. That's somewhere between 11 to 20% of government revenues. Now, Russia only spent $61 billion compared to our $754. In other words, it spent 12 times more than they did. China spends $252 billion. We spend 3 times more than they do. Our allies together spend about $250 billion. So between our allies and ourselves, we spend about $1 trillion a year in defense, compared to 313 combined for Russia and China. Again, 3 times more than our enemies. Now, about capitalism and the energy industry. Look at El Paso. Electricity and natural gas were monopolies. What a business owned by the descendants of famed capitalist monopolist J.P. Morgan. You know, the city and the government should invest a portion of our taxes in them, in equity in those companies, and use, the rate increases when they ask for some. Hey, turn it into equity so we get a piece of that action. They're a monopoly. Come on. The U.S. government should do the same to make money with our taxes. And so we could get seats on the board of directors of these companies and move them into clean, green, renewable energy over time. Now, my solution would be the same as what former Fort Bliss Commanding General Dana Pitarch was trying to do at Fort Bliss. Energy independence with solar power. Put solar panels all over those government buildings, which there's a whole bunch of them out there. Clean water by desalinizing the brackish water in the Waco Basin and aquifer. There's a lot of water there, but it's all brackish. Well, we got the way to do it. It just costs money. It's not free. Let's stop throwing our money away and investing in the things that the people need: energy, healthcare, a clean, safe environment, and converting waste into energy. I mean, we'll always have that waste. We got all that waste that we could convert into energy. But again, the privateers, the profiteers, they don't want that. They want to control the solutions. And they do it through their money of purchase politicians. All these national projects, again, were alliances between government and industry. But this time we ought to be cutting the American people in on the money and on the policy making.
I mean, you've mentioned such a plan similarly before, and I am not sure of any real way it could be done. And frankly, just writ more broadly on the idea of there being tax dollars going towards equity, we kind of had that. The only real similarity I can think of, at least within my lifetime, was what came out of the automobile industry bailout, and that there was kind of some equity there, and I think technically a little bit of money was made in the repayment on the interest on the loans there. But that is I have a lot of discomfort with that idea because, sure, if obviously what you're espousing would fit your ideals, but what again if something else comes in, a different administration, different Congress, etc., and completely changes those around? There's one of the better descriptions of the difference between capitalism and socialism, communism, etc., is the ability to be agile. Essentially, shifting lanes in the road was the way the analogy was made to me, that when you have rather state-directed production, essentially, you're in one lane, and to change that lane is a literal legislative process, aka not that fast. When you have private industry leading it, you're able to be nimble, and those that don't, well, end up crashing and burning out. And if you have all the industry being directed by the government, crashing and burning out isn't exactly a desirable outcome. So that's why I'm going to say, sure, more public input. I mean, regulation, I think, is important in these cases, but actually then directing these companies, I'm not buying it on that one, and I don't think a whole lot of people are there as well, because the problems that would come along with that, because again, I've said this more than a few times, if there's a power that you could not imagine your political opponents holding, maybe that power shouldn't exist. An underrated concept, I do feel. But tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we are going to talk more about these issues affecting us in the borderland, take more of those calls in the line. So if you wanted to chime in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Stalled vehicles blocking the right shoulder, I-10 eastbound at Thorne and Memorial Highway southbound on Loop 375 at Montwood Drive. Joe Battle Boulevard at Edgemere, that injury accident there's in the clearing stages. I-10 eastbound at Geronimo, the road debris is out of the road, all lanes are back open. And Gateway Boulevard northbound at Hercules, an injury accident slowing traffic. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Kelley Blue Book. Kelley Blue Book Instant Cash Offer is an official offer to buy your car. Enter your vehicle ID info, answer some questions. Then get a no-obligation offer to sell or trade it. Then choose a dealer to purchase your car. Schedule a time and drive away with confidence. For all of the its, kbb.com it.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time.
Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're speaking another language. Like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right. And they're designed by real language teachers, so you learn how to have real-world conversations, things you'll actually use.
3 weeks. It's incredible. After 3 weeks, I'm on vacation in Paris, having a conversation in French.
There's all kinds of ways to learn. Use Babbel's podcasts or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
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 Babbel. Évidemment.
Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Illegal fentanyl is up to 100 times more potent than morphine. A tiny amount is all it takes to cause an overdose. It could be in your drugs, and you wouldn't be able to see it, taste it, or smell it. Learn more at cdc.gov/stop-overdose.
GDIT is hiring bilingual English-Spanish customer service representatives. Join us for a virtual career fair on June 8th to learn how you can impact the safety and security of our nation with GDIT. $500 sign-on bonus available for select positions. Register and apply at gdit.com/El Paso. That's gdit.com/El Paso.
It's likely you've read some of the many Curious George books, but you might not know the story behind the couple who wrote them. You'll hear how these two authors escaped Nazi Germany. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to participate in the show. Of course, we got the social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, where you can find us there, and comments coming in, a lot of them. John Brazelton, Raul Francisco Amaya, Kathy Codry, RJ, Michael Perez, Calvin Williams, Flaco Jimenez, Reed Gorman, and more. Maria comment a little bit earlier. Also dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Esteban Bustillos, Calvin Williams, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. Just helps us with the algorithmic part of our mission to have live local talk radio here in the borderland. We're going to continue our discussion about all the things we got going on here today, including power supply, the Defense Production Act, and of course some of those scams going on. But we got to take that top of the hour news break. So be back after that for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Stalled vehicles blocking the right shoulder, I-10 eastbound at Thorne and Memorial Highway southbound on Loop 375 at Montwood Drive. Joe Battle Boulevard at Edgemere, that injury accident there's in the clearing stages. I-10 eastbound at Geronimo, the road debris is out of the road, all lanes are back open. And Gateway Boulevard northbound at Hercules, an injury accident slowing traffic. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
COVID-19 research has come a long way, but there's still more to understand about how to treat COVID-19 effectively. The Active 6 study is researching existing medications to find out if they may help people with COVID feel better and get back to the things they love faster. The best part? It can all be done from the comfort of home. We'll send medications to your door, and you'll take surveys completely online. Learn more at active6study.org/radio. That's activ6study.org/radio.
Scott Burns, and I served in the Marines from 1991 to 1995. I received an injury while I was in the Marines, which led to an amputation. Purport Homes came in and fixed my house and made it handicap accessible. I don't have enough time to tell you how much of a difference Purport Homes made in my life, but they gave me security and peace of mind. Thank you, Purport Homes, for what you've done to change my life.
Texas has 187 disabled and aging veterans requesting assistance from Purple Heart Homes. Donate now at purplehearthomesusa.org.
Rich is just a really good guy.
way, the term good egg isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich, no. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National
News
Highway
on the
Traffic
hour
Safety
and the half.
Administration.
Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. A Simi Valley, California man is facing charges of attempted murder of a federal judge after he was arrested near Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's Maryland home. Charging documents show Nicholas John Roski arrived by taxi in front of Kavanaugh's home around 1 a.m. on Wednesday. He then started to walk down the street when he spotted U.S. Marshals standing next to their vehicle. The documents indicate the 26-year-old called 911 and said he was having suicidal thoughts and had traveled to Maryland to kill a Supreme Court justice. Attorney General Merrick Garland says all justices have increased security.
I accelerated the protection of all the justices' residences.
There have been protests around the homes of some of the Supreme Court's conservative justices since the leak of a draft opinion signaled they were ready to overturn Roe v. Wade. A report says the National Guard will be deployed in and around Washington, D.C. soon to deal with potential violence surrounding the abortion case. The House is nearing a vote on a package of gun safety measures. It's called the Protecting Our Kids Act, and if passed, it will be sent on to the Senate. Continued debate over the legislation comes the same day as victims' families and survivors of recent mass shootings delivered emotional testimony before Congress. Former President Trump and his two oldest children will testify next month in New York's investigation into his business practices. Julie Ryan reports.
Mr. Trump, his son Donald Jr., and daughter Ivanka will testify separately on July 15th. Last month, the former president paid $110,000 in fines after he was found in contempt of court for failing to respond to a subpoena from the Attorney General's office. I'm Julie Ryan.
At the closing bell, the Dow Jones fell by 269 points to 32,910. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. A retired Army general who now heads a leading Washington think tank allegedly lied to federal investigators about his role in secretly lobbying for the government of Qatar. Trey Thomas reports.
The New York Times reports retired four-star General John Allen's role is alleged in court documents filed in a broad Justice Department FBI investigation into the influence of wealthy Arab nations in Washington. The countries include Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. Allen now leads the Brookings Institution. His attorney said in a statement Tuesday that Allen voluntarily cooperated with the government's investigation.
Trader Joe's workers in Massachusetts are filing for an election to create the company's first union. The filing asks for an election including around 85 employees who would create an independent union. The union campaign is being led by an 18-year-old employee. A company spokeswoman said the vote is welcomed. Taco Bell is changing the drive-thru experience with their first high-tech restaurant. Mark Mayfield has more.
The Minnesota drive-thru location opened on Tuesday, and it aims to serve customers in 2 minutes or less. There are 4 lanes that customers can drive into with digital check-in scanners, audio and video screens to talk with employees, and a vertical lift that delivers the guests' food from the second story down to their cars. 3 of the lanes are dedicated to mobile and third-party delivery orders, while the 4th is going to offer the more traditional fast food experience. The company has implied that similar drive-thrus could start popping up nationwide in the future.
A bear in the White Mountains breaks into someone's car to clean up fast food leftovers. The Jackson Police Department reports the bear managed his way through a partially opened window to get at the discarded McDonald's bag while the motorist was at yesterday's restaurant on Tuesday. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance at a trip to our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Text the nationwide keyword festival to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's festival to 200-200.
This report is sponsored by the Ben Ferguson Podcast.
Coming up on the Ben Ferguson Podcast all week, Democrats are demanding new gun control laws that wouldn't have prevented the shooting in Texas, as Republicans are saying it's time to arm teachers that want special training. So who's going to win this battle? I'll tell you. Download the Ben Ferguson Podcast now.
Hey, it's Maura Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
And 1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
You can't help but look at a car wreck on the side of the road. Yet we turn a blind eye to the things we should be looking at.
What are we doing? It's not like we didn't know. We know. We are turning our eyes.
The Glenn Beck Program.
I have no tolerance anymore for people who say, I just can't look at it.
Listen and look.
You don't have that option.
Glenn Beck. Mornings at 7.
What can you do? Here's something you can do.
News Radio 690. KTSM.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone?
Do flowers have best friends?
I don't know.
Hey, look. Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690. KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM, getting into the second hour of the program here in the 5 o'clock hour, and a lot of topics we're going to be getting into, a lot of ways that you can interact with the show. If you're wanting to chime in over on social media or on the phone line, those are full up at the moment, the phone line anyway. If you want to try to squeeze in there, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. That number, a lot of comments coming in over on the social medias, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Find us on those platforms, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. So a lot we're going to be getting into here. Just touching in on some of the comments here. Among others, Catherine Codry asking me if I've noticed the shrinkflation trend in packaging nowadays, less product for the same or higher price. Been mentioning that for a minute here, and then I'm resending the comment actually with a frowny face at the end of it. I think that feels appropriate. I've heard it. I've been noticing it. There's actually a phrase been going by a little bit longer than that. Skimpflation is the one I prefer. The idea that it's not just they're shrinking the project, but things are being skimped on overall, whether it comes to airline flights, less services coming along with your ticket, but it being the same price. For example, the most concrete I can point out to that, yes, it's happening, and particularly happening in our area, is ice. I don't know why this gets me so much, but yes, I've noticed that, and there's no particular shrinkflation, as Michael Paris puts it. There's no particular store I'm singling out on this, but just that there used to be, the 10 and 20 pound bags of ice, and now they're the same price, but they're 7 pounds. They've gotten to 7 pounds, which is, I don't know why it irks me so much, but I mean, I guess I clearly see the marketing purpose on it's there, that it's not as simple to do a calculation in your head of, well, what does that mean if I was buying the regular bag of ice, because it's not an easily divisible by 5 number. I mean, they could have gone like 9 pounds or something. I want to say I saw that earlier on, but 7 pounds is what they seem to have gotten to. So yes, have definitely noticed that. And I don't know why. I don't even buy ice that often because I have an ice maker at home and don't need that huge of volumes in most of my personal circumstances. So, yeah, I've noticed it, and I am fairly positive it will continue. Other thing I was, of course, looking for when I recently went to the supermarket, not that I have a personal need for it again, but just wanted to see it for myself, was, of course, the formula supply decent amount. It wasn't totally bare, at least on the store that I was in, but a lot of the varieties, some of the smaller ones, did seem to still be gone there. Other question coming in here, Raul Francisco, am I asking, so am I okay with the status quo of any energy monopolies in El Paso? Further stating equity from taxes for the monopolies and oligopolies in basic industries that already profit tremendously from government contracts. I mean, no, not exactly in favor of monopolies, but cure can't be worse than the disease, I guess is a good way to put it, because then saying that, and therefore government should have a role in not just regulating, but furthermore directing it, is where I'm going to continue to disagree with you. Some others bring up the idea that no, competition is the way out of that. Yeah, if monopolies are enshrined in law, as sometimes they are, not necessarily in this case, that's when you start getting into real issues with it. So saying that, well, as another comment here, a good one that came in between the breaks here, Eric von Holstein-Rathlow saying, we are being governed by amateurs who think that they can just will utopia into existence. They have no concept of consequences. They think they can shut down entire industries and tax and spend our way into prosperity. I refuse to listen to people who have never signed the front of a paycheck lecture me on how to run a business. Decent points to be made there. So no, not exactly in favor of monopolies, but by saying, and therefore any reason to get rid of them is a good way to do it, is not following you down to the end of that conclusion line there either. On the weather note here, again, I don't have a window outside. I need to get one because apparently there's a haboob moving in through town, particularly on the west side from our news partners over at KFOX 14 and CBS 4, showing impending on this side of town, it would appear. So batten down the hatches, folks. If it isn't nailed down, make sure that you've got it at least put away. And it might be hailing for some out there. I'm hearing from friends as well. So interesting weather going on in the borderland right now. Michael Petto saying, yep, big storm moving in. And Calvin Williams saying, pretty soon we'll have the same amount of hot dogs as there are in the package of hot dog buns. Well, that's one way to do it. We are mildly supply crisising our way out of an existential crisis. So we're just trading one for the other. So let's get into those phone calls again right now. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Mike on the west side here with us right now. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Andrew, for taking my call.
Sure thing. What's on your mind?
Yes, I just want to inform the listeners about this big January 6th Hollywood-produced primetime show that's going to air tomorrow night. And I would like to just provide some facts that aren't really being provided through the Democrat-aligned media. And first, like I said, it's a Hollywood-produced production. It's actually using one of the words that they were going to make it a theatrical made-for-TV program. And that it's they're trying to liken it to Watergate. Whereas Watergate was were live hearings. These are not live hearings. It's all pre-recorded with highly edited testimony and videos, and it only comes from a Democrat-only perspective. All the members, which many people don't realize, were appointed by Nancy Pelosi. None of the members represent the Republican Party or the Republican minority. And so this is a highly partisan and biased program, and people ought to know that.
I don't think, I overestimate people sometimes. I think anyone that's really been paying attention isn't going to be totally sold on the idea that there are no political implications or purposes being explored as part of this, though I do believe that at least the idea, well, I'm not even going to try to put my own thoughts on what I'd like to see come out of this onto it, because it's going to be whatever the heck it's going to be. And yeah, I just think it's going to be one heck of a tactical error on the part of National Democrats if they are essentially pinning re-election hopes onto this as supposed to then sweep them into the next term of office. Would just be, I don't think people are going to buy it that much.
Well, they're depending on this to flip people's minds and to focus off inflation, the price of gas, and to focus their minds on January 6th. Obviously, with their selective editing, they're going to try to make it look much worse than it actually was.
I mean,
there will be no exonerating testimony, no other side testimony.
I agree with you there, and I'm only laughing because trying to distract from serious economic and personal issues with the riveting nature of a congressional hearing is just, oh man, that is just such that I can't help but laugh at just as a concept that would be considered as being done there because it's the economy, stupid, is such a prevailing reality when it comes to elections of what people are voting on. Sure, they got your single issue voters. Sure, you got people who are otherwise only paying attention to headlines, and this may enter their consciousness. But if they're still having difficulty in their everyday lives, that's what's going to be what they go and vote on. So if anyone out there is pinning their reelection hopes or thinking that, well, the party I support is going to be bolstered by this, I think they got another thing coming.
Well, let's hope so. I know Raul will be rapidly watching this and drooling, most likely. But let's hope more people are open-minded and understand what's going on.
I mean, I'll be, given that it comes after or like right around the end of our show here, I'll be paying attention to it to an extent, if only because I know, given that the next day, Friday, I'm sure we'll have some discussion on that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking my call, Andrew. I just wanted to get this out there and just make sure that some people that didn't know kind of know these facts about what's going to happen tomorrow night with this docudrama.
Yeah, that sounds a decent way to put it. So, all right, well, appreciate it. Thank you very much for the point in the call. You have a good one.
Take care. Bye.
All right, bye-bye. I mean, yeah, again, I have been very open with my call for a full investigation, looking into the facts here, and I just don't see this as being it. I see even if there was a core of it at some point in this entire congressional investigative process, I'm wondering how much of it has been lost in terms of even just looking, I described to y'all a little bit yesterday how committee hearing rooms are usually set up. I mean, sure, there might be cameras in some, but they're usually like the C-SPAN cameras, and they're like installed in the walls. Just looking at some of the setups and preparations doing for this, it's going to be very different. So anytime you're putting focus on something besides what is supposed to be the core issue at hand with, say, a committee, you're going to lose a little bit of, well, the purpose towards that core focus. That's just, yeah. Anyway, we got more calls on the line here. Let's get to more of them here before we hit that next break. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Andrew.
Hey there, Ben.
Shortly before his inauguration, Biden met with the radical group, climate group called Center for Biological Diversity. And Biden was given the list of 10 essential climate actions that he could take without involving Congress. In other words, going around the democratic process. Number one was rejoin the Paris Agreement. He did that. Number two, he made make polluters pay. Number three, advance climate justice. Number seven, launch a just transition to protect our communities, workers, and economy. Number five, power the electricity sector with 100% clean and renewable energy by 2030 and promote energy democracy. Number four, use the Clean Air Act to set a science-based national pollution cap for greenhouse pollutants. Number three, shift financial flows from fossil fuels to climate solutions. ESG scores, I think that would encompass. Number two, stop fossil fuel exports and infrastructure approvals. Another one, keep fossil fuels in the ground. And the biggest one, and the one we will soon see, because he's going to issue a national emergency because of the drought, because of the food, because of something. And that's to declare a national climate emergency under the National Emergencies Act. That is where we're heading. What do you think?
Well, I'll say this plainly. I mean, some of those ideas in the list I'm not inherently opposed to, but clearly the way it's going out, and I mean, don't necessarily disagree with you on the idea that this is the trajectory we're on. It can be kind of seen by, again, having been declared this week, the Defense Production Act. The declaration and use of the Defense Production Act is not something to be considered lightly. I mean, I want to say one of the only times it's come up in my lifetime before this was in terms of getting stuff, ventilators, etc., produced in, well, for the outset of the pandemic. So it is a pretty serious thing, even just in the name of it here. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were to be some kind of further declaration. So being on that trajectory, yeah, makes a lot of sense here. I think that the hugest and biggest stumbling block they're going to have in all of this is by saying that, no, we're just going to implement this all immediately, going to do it right off the bat. And anyone that stumbles, well, must stink to be you, kind of thing, because that ain't going to work for just a whole lot of people in this country. And again, people tend to vote with their feet more than anything. If something isn't working for them, if they're not able to, say, power their homes, I mean, I am not entirely unconvinced that that could be the direction we go to if this is done without any restraint, without any actual consideration of, again, what the realities are. If things are actually just blacking out and browning out, not because there are issues with production and supply going to the things, but that they're literally being choked off, that is a difference that people are, well, riots have happened for less.
In Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, one of the things he said was identify the crisis, and if none exists, create one, and then rebuild society into whatever you want.
Yeah.
This is right down the playbook of Saul Alinsky and Biden and Obama and Hillary Clinton, all these people. And I don't remember anybody voting for any of this thing.
I'll agree with you on that. I mean, I guess it was a mild point of the idea of energy independence, renewable fuels, that kind of a thing, or renewable energy in general, was more or less a plank of the Biden administration. But in terms of this radical nature of it, no. I mean, I think there is, at least in the minds of some, this idea that burn it all down and you'll be in charge of the rubble. But I don't think that even if you're going to be lighting the match, you're going to be left in charge of much of anything. And yeah, that's why it's important to talk about, because anyone saying that, no, we'll just get it done and everything will be fine in the meantime. They're already throwing out that last part of everything being fine in the meantime. But even beyond that, people just won't stand for it. I mean, I think the only reason we haven't seen larger, well, demonstrations about things like this is the fact that for the moment, things are, well, generally comfortable. The things haven't been upheavaled for the majority of Americans, but it doesn't even take a majority for people deciding that this is untenable anymore for things to change along those lines.
The Great Reset, you'll own nothing and like it.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, connecting it to that, but I think that people will vote with their feet and vote in the streets long before we get even close to that. If it truly, I mean, if they manage to pull it off in a way that doesn't upset people's lives and doesn't leave them wondering, wait, what do you want me to do? No, I'm not doing that. And then forcing them to, if they can slip it under in the dead of night kind of thing, that would be one thing. But I think a lot more people, as they realize, wait, no, like I don't even have power in my house. If it comes to that, oh, that's when you're going to start seeing people real ticked off. I know we talk about in general, and a lot of people discuss about getting people woken up. Comfortable people tend not to want to look too hard at why they're comfortable, but people with a level of discomfort, and it's different for every person, tend to immediately be wondering, well, what the hell caused this? And I think once we reach that point, there'll be a lot more people involved and very angry about it.
How about all the blackouts that are going, and that they've actually predicted will occur during this summer? You think that's going to make people comfortable?
Exactly. I think, we called it in the announcement post here today, a hot time this summer, and it could be very hot indeed. Again, if you're not allowing people's basic comfort level, and again, it's the economy, stupid. If they're feeling the squeeze, they're going to look at what's happening, why is it happening, and lack of any other explanation, they're going to say, oh, it's the people in charge right now, let's kick the bums out. I expect that even if we don't have rolling blackouts, if prices continue, we're going to see, again, quite the culling of the party in power when it comes to the ballot box in November.
I certainly hope you're right. However, I don't think any of the American people are so tied up in trying to get, food on the table, feed their children, and get to work because of high prices of gasoline, that they don't have time to look at any of these things that are going on. So taking a blind eye to all this stuff.
Potentially here, but again, anger, frustration, and just being upset in general, unhappy writ large on a lot of these issues tends to be quite the motivator, regardless of, well, however much a random radio host in West Texas is telling people they should vote anyway. But we got to take that next break right now. Thank you for the point in the call. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls on the line, more discussion of these issues, more everything going on and affecting us here in the borderlands. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Again, we are doing that Father's Day giveaway with our, of course, partners, official hair and beard sponsor of the show at Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa. If you want to make sure you're entered into that, all you have to do is talk on the show here. Make sure you've got the iHeartRadio app downloaded. Find the 690 page and then just press that little microphone button to leave us a message, and you'll be automatically entered to win into the drawing a $100 gift card each week leading up to Father's Day. So either a big present for someone else, or if you consider yourself a father in any sense of the word, and you can go ahead and use it for yourself here. So use it for whatever you see fit. Just make sure to enter that. Again, the Father's Day giveaway with our partners over at Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa. Find them online at gentsrepublic.com. That's GENTS Republic.com, or drop them a line at 915-532-3000.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Police responding to a crash, Global Reach Drive south of the Liberty Expressway at George Perry Boulevard. On Memorial Highway, Loop 375 northbound at Pebble Hills. Road debris got the Pebble Hills exit ramp partially blocked. Copia northbound at Gateway, an injury accident. And a crash reported northbound Dyer at Ellerthorpe. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's Breakfast Baconator. Don't let breakfast be boring when it could be better. Wendy's Breakfast Baconator will have you feeling sunny side up all day long. Wake up to fresh cracked eggs, savory sausage, and oven-baked bacon, of course. Order it and start looking forward to tomorrow morning at participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours only.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer: regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
So great to finally be able to get together again.
Oh, it sure is. And I really appreciate you picking up the bill.
I'm happy to. I've got the extra cash. Since we've all been driving so much more again, I've been using Upside, the free app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back just for buying the gas I was going to buy anyway.
But is it a hassle to use?
No, it's super fast and easy, and I can cash out whenever I want.
That's a total no-brainer. I'm downloading the free Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code MILE for a $5 bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code MILE for a $5 bonus on your first tank. That's code MILE for a $5 bonus.
You know, when you really think about it, we want to oppose the centralization of power. We want to create obstacles to tyranny.
There he goes again, being prudent.
The Constitution isn't about procedural niceties.
Stating facts.
It's not a great philosophical document like the Declaration.
And using common sense.
It's a governing document.
If he keeps this up, he'll be Employee of the Month.
Woo-hoo!
Sean Hannity, afternoons at 1. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk on most of those. A lot of commentary coming in. But of course, don't forget that you can leave us a comment over on the various social media sites that we're up on there as well. And of course, through the talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. So just in case there's any confusion about that, simple steps. Download the iHeartRadio app. Find us the 690 page, News Radio 690 KTSM, the station you're listening to right now, however you may be. You can listen to it through the app and then find that little red microphone button. Just tap on that, be able to leave us a message. And again, you'll be entered to win into our weekly drawing there for the Gentleman's Republic gift card. So make sure we can get a hold of you, basically, when you sign up for the app. And you'll be entered to win that $100 gift card for Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa. All the great services I talk about getting there because, of course, I use it myself just in time for Father's Day. So either as a giveaway or for the father in your life, or if that's yourself, I make no judgment. Just make sure you enter to win and get your comments in there weekly. A lot more comments coming in over on the social media as well. Catherine Coder saying, build back broke. Unimpressed with that. Calvin Williams saying, blackouts being predicted. When have any of their predictions come true? The only blackouts I see coming are when they already have happened. Eric saying that people's lives are already being upset because of the Great Reset. Again, if anyone thinks that this is going to go simply, that's why I guess I've hadly... No, I don't think it'll happen because people are going to get ticked off long before that does, though it does take people actually being involved, paying attention, et cetera, et cetera. Michael Pettis saying the elites believe that all the things that are going to affect people will not affect them. You can even just say members of Congress or elected officials in general right now. Among many, many other things, I've said a lot of things I would change about current governments. One amendment that I think we are well overdue for would be the idea that any law passed by Congress will immediately and irrevocably be applied to Congress themselves. So no separate health plan. You got to go through the healthcare exchanges. No change in how you can, maintain or not portfolios about things that you are legislating on. Just little, ever so slight things like that, but we'll see if that ever happens here. And so a lot more commentary going on there. And if you're wanting to chime in and, of course, dropping those likes, Esteban Bustillos, Calvin Williams, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez, we do appreciate that. But let's get back to the phone lines here right now. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have a couple calls on the line here right now. We have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you very much. One of the collateral consequences, Andrew, that I see not only in El Paso but nationwide with this increase in fuel prices is, I don't know if you've noticed, but some businesses are actually having to close early.
Yeah, I mean, previously, I'm still seeing we don't have enough staffing and that kind of a thing. But yeah, the energy costs are getting significant. And then, of course, the way it gets baked into everything else, because, if it takes that much more to produce something, to transport something, et cetera, it's a snowball effect.
Yes, and also some businesses are actually cutting hours, and some employees, it's too expensive for them to come to work. Imagine you live in Horizon City, and you have to come all the way over, let's say, to Paseo del Norte, when let's say you're making $10 an hour and it's costing you $5 a gallon for gas.
Yeah, and that's why, I've even seen some conversations about in the return from remote work, if someone's saying we're coming back, saying, no, I'm going to go find a place that either lets me remote work, or are you providing a gas card? There's a lot of interesting conversation and confluences. That could be a further contribution to the Great Resignation, as we've sometimes talked about as well.
Yes, that's true. Now, I must respond to that Raul person. Okay, he talks about investment and concerning these oil companies and fossil fuel industry. Well, there's over 6,500 products that come from petroleum.
Yep.
How can we curtail this? Even medications, and we're in the midst of. We're not out of this pandemic yet, and yet people want to curtail production of fossil fuels?
Again, I'm not in favor of this plan overall. Even if there were to be a transition, I think there's some possibilities for, natural grown products to replace a lot of, particularly plastics and things like that. But it takes building up the infrastructure and the production capability to actually make it happen. Just declaring it from one day to the next super doesn't work, as does with fuel and anything else really petroleum based at this point. So I'm not even necessarily opposed to it as a trajectory to be on, but you can't just say, oh, by law, by the way, everyone, no one can drive a car anymore. Good luck out there, folks. Don't get caught lacking. I mean, that's basically the reasoning it feels like right now. And I don't see that going over well at any level, either in the just general zeitgeist and the ballot box. Yeah, that ain't going to work.
Well, one of the dangers involved in taking over the oil industry, and this is going to upset Frankie, I know that, but that left-wing wacko in Venezuela, when the government took over the oil industry, okay, he used profits from the oil industry and invested in social programs. However, what it did was it destroyed the oil industry, because the oil companies over there could not reinvest in their own production and improve it. Also, what he did was people in the oil industry down there warned him about this catastrophe that was on its way. What did he do? He replaced some 20,000 employees in the oil industry with individuals that were loyal to his ideas and his government.
Yeah, a little bit of Pravda in action down there. You can do your job, be bad at your job as long as you don't disagree with those who are telling you how to do the job. Yeah, it's a mess there. And I actually was working with someone, I mentioned my DC days sometimes, and was actually working alongside with someone that was from Venezuela, part of an international exchange there. And he had his indigenous perspective on Hugo Chavez at that point in time was fascinating, because he was more than a little bit displeased, because sure, on paper it sounds like a good idea, take some of the national wealth of the country and put it towards those most in need, but of course the devil's always in the details in the way that it was done there, and the fact that it wasn't actually being fact or data driven, but rather, well, I think this will work, and if you don't think it's worked, have fun in the gulag. The central mentality didn't work out at all.
Well, that's true. Yeah, and he was so hard-headed and so anti-U.S.
That
he would not even consider going to some of the best United States cancer treatment centers. That's how adamant he was in his anti-Western thinking.
Yep, and that's one of the reasons that he ended up kicking the bucket back in 2013, because, it's kind of funny how reality collides with ideology sometimes, and, reality always wins.
Right. Anyway, I turn the mic over to you. Have a good evening.
No, you too as well. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there too. I mean, there's a lot to talk about there with these guys and what they're doing. And again, the priorities being set here, if there's not an eye towards, okay, how does this actually work for the general person out there? Let's just say there's a chart that's been floating around there. I need to track it down, but one of the many things that lives rent-free in my head is a comparison of the amount of economic inequality during, say, the French Revolution versus now, and how we have well outstripped that. And yet there hasn't been the kind of upheaval we've seen then, because the standard of living is also incredibly higher now. But as that continues to get chipped away, I think that, honestly, it's been in the back of my mind. I haven't really elaborated on it out loud till now, but based on the conversations here today and these thoughts I've been having, I think that really the major factor that should be looked at in terms of what will be happening in these next elections will be standard of living. Because as much as people have not paid attention to a whole lot of the things, while we were worried about 1984 happening, and it is still happening, Brave New World happened when it came to more or less the public consciousness, so much information out of there and so little of it being actually relevant and important in lives. The whole noise to signal measure being totally out of whack, that people may not even know what to look at or what to do, but they get ticked off enough, something might happen. So again, that standard of living might be probably, arguably, one of the more important things to look at as we head into next elections, and even just in the next day. So let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more calls on the line, more issues, and more discussion we'll have about all the things going on and affecting us here in the borderland. I am, of course, your host, Andrew J. Polk. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. See you in a minute. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 news update. Excessive heat has settled into the borderland and can pose a risk to your health. The city has now opened cooling centers to provide an indoor air-conditioned environment for those who need to cool down throughout the day. And there's a collaboration between the El Paso Office of Emergency Management, the City of El Paso Parks and Recreation, and the Extreme Weather Task Force. The Galatsan Rec Center, Chalio Acosta Sports Center, Veterans Rec Center, Chamizal Rec Center, Valle Bajo Community Center, and Marty Robbins Rec Center will be open Monday through Thursday from 9 to 8, Friday and Sunday from noon to 7. Those in need of a fan for their homes can request one for free by dialing 211 and then press 1 for the first option. Those who are eligible for a fan include senior adults, those living with a disability, and those with little children who don't have adequate cooling in their homes. We are in a streak of triple-digit temperatures. Please stay safe. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Gateway Boulevard westbound at Hawkins, the left exit ramp is blocked due to a stalled vehicle. Global Reach south, there's a crash at Global Reach Drive south of Liberty at George Perry Boulevard, slowing traffic. Loop 375 southbound at the Spur, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. And an accident reported Dyer Street northbound at Ellerthorpe. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We've had a little moisture move back into the borderland, and that could actually help to trigger a stray shower or storm going into the evening. But after midnight, things should begin to improve. Overnight temperatures tonight in the lower to mid 70s. We'll see another round of possible stray showers or storms for Thursday. But with this increase in moisture, look for more clouds and a slightly cooler forecast for Thursday. Unfortunately, we heat up quickly for the weekend.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples Print and Marketing Services help small business print big with wide format signs and banners. Right now, get $10 off custom printed signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. Offer ends 7/2. Visit staples.com/thisisyoursign for details. This is your sign to print big at Staples.
COVID-19 research has come a long way, but there's still more to understand about how to treat COVID-19 effectively. The Active 6 study is researching existing medications to find out if they may help people with COVID feel better and get back to the things they love faster. The best part? It can all be done from the comfort of home. We'll send medications to your door, and you'll take surveys completely online. Learn more at active6study.org/radio. That's activ6study.org/
New on Curiosity Stream. He allows them their riches
Putin has to be the richest of the rich.
in exchange for their loyalty.
The oligarchs have supported someone for president that they underestimate.
The illicit affair between Russia's elite and the man who rules them on Putin and the oligarchs. And World War II Normandy. An obscure battle training session takes a tragic turn. Uncover the one secret military catastrophe on the secret D-Day disaster. Watch now on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
GDIT is hiring bilingual English-Spanish customer service representatives. Join us for a virtual career fair on June 8th to learn more. $500 sign-on bonus available for select positions. Register and apply now at gdit.com/El Paso.
The crypto markets are crashing, scams abound, and no one is coming to save you. I'm Mark Moss, each week discussing the decentralized revolution. So join me for the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
Stay informed at KTSMradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to chime in on the show, even as we're getting towards the end of it here. I mean, we got a lot more we're going to be talking about, but if you wanted to chime in, the number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM, and a lot more discussion we'll be having about all the issues. Talk to you more about next segment about what we got coming up for you on the show, but apparently weather definitely moving into the area. Kathy Coulter letting us know, loving the smell of after a good rainstorm, but others telling me that weather really bad in some parts of town, low visibility, windy, dusty, thunderstorm warning for parts of New Mexico, not too far from our region. So just stay safe out there is what I will say. Even Kathy Coulter is looking for the rainbow in all of this. And yeah, a lot more comments coming in on a lot of the subjects here. And so, God's ozonator, RJ putting it. Petrichor is actually the name for it, that smell release, though we have a little bit more of the bushes. There's a person I know that was actually making something based on it. Chaparral hydrosol, actually, the way he was actually bottling it, among other things. So, yeah. Just enjoy it if you can, and otherwise stay safe out there. Let's get to those calls and line, squeeze in what we can. We got Frankie online here, right? I think we got Frankie. Frankie, you there with us?
The most significant news particular point in this century is about to happen tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be broadcast all over the world. And guess what? The only cable news network that's not going to follow it is Foul Noise Network. The rest of the people out there want to listen to Lurid Ingrate and Sean Hennisbatty and Sucker Crunson. Yeah, way to go, Foul Noise Network. Keep your stupid audience even more stupid than they are. That's number one. I got an idea. I'm telling you what the United States government can do to help a little bit alleviate what's going on here. I'm telling you, every trucker out there that's registered with the United States Department of Transportation gets a serious fuel break to where they only pay $1 for a gallon of diesel just for the U.S. DOT people, and they can write it off on their income tax. And that would dramatically reduce a lot of the shipping costs a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit helps. You know what I've been saying? When you bail out your dinghy, you won't sink. So at least you do that. Now, what do you think of them apples?
I mean, it makes a level of sense. I will say that just looking at, if you go to the pump, you've ever stare at it and ignore whatever weird news little item might be blaring on it, that there's actually a listing of the taxes that you're paying on it, and from the state, federal, and even local things that are put into it, mostly state and federal, because there's like 2 at least each, it comes out to about $1 extra per gallon. So that's like baseline level for the most part whenever we're talking about this. That's one of the things that I think should be further looked at, particularly for, well, I mean, if you're talking about critical infrastructure, yeah, truckers would ever so slightly apply, but I think not going further will be important because, well, Michael Pat is asking who will pay for that. I think it's not so much who's going to pay for it as, well, if you're actually trying to alleviate prices here, it'll be something we'll all be reaping. So it would make a level of sense whether or not there's actually the appetite for it, as there's been more and more used to essentially end users taxes as opposed to general ones, less on income tax, property tax, etc., and more on, okay, who's actually using the infrastructure, which is part of the problem we've actually seen with the idea of moving to electric vehicles, because they're now, of course, not paying gas taxes on them anymore. So expect more to happen on that as we see a larger societal shift potentially in the future to that, about how that will be dealt with. Probably a lot more electricity taxes, which will be fun. But, well, Kevin Williams saying we should also give incentives that will increase inflation. So, I mean, I may not increase inflation, but the idea of there being less taxes on it, I think, is a viable one to look at. But I'm not quite sure, given everything else going on, including the committee you mentioned there's the political will for it.
Well, I'm just saying, Andrew, we just got to try a few different things. Humans put themselves in these own particular problems, and it just requires a different set of intelligent humans to get themselves out of the box. This is not complicated. Come on. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Come on. Unless, of course, you watch Foul Noise Network, then you're going to be stupid for the rest of your life. That's all I want to say.
Fair enough. Okay, appreciate it. The point of the call. You have a good one there.
Bye.
I think we got time for one more here before we hit that next break. I mean, again, dealing with the actual energy cost is important. And however, Cal Williams also saying all of his comments today are made sarcastically. I guess I kind of got that, but good to know because sarcasm surprisingly doesn't go that well through text. Who would have guessed? Anyway, we have Jerry on the west side here with us right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. A question for you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
What is it called when the government tells you that you as a reporter or a broadcaster can only put out this information? What is that called?
I mean, the simple term there is, of course, censorship.
How about fascism?
Well, they tend to go a little bit hand in hand, at least in terms of actual tactics that have gone through it. I will admit I've only ever encountered it one time in my life, and it was mostly was not allowed to point a camera in a certain direction because I would have revealed the actual tactical emplacements of police and other security forces when the Pope was not in town, but right across the border from town. But that's about the only time I've directly encountered it in my career.
Can I get to my point?
Oh, absolutely.
What is the same thing it's called fascism also when the government says this enterprise or corporation or entity that develops something cannot work when this other one can, and they're doing the same thing. Energy, they're doing the same thing. So with Biden economics, he's running a fascist thing here. He's saying that the fuels and the petrochemical companies and such cannot produce gasoline or oil, but yet he wants wind and solar to be produced. Yet it takes petrochemicals to produce that windmill. Those windmill fans are made of a certain plastic and a carbon fiber, and it takes petrochemicals to produce that. They also run on oil inside. They have to have so many gallons of oil. I believe the smaller ones take 55 gallons of oil approximately, and the larger ones take more. The glass for the solar panels is a certain type of glass. You just can't take a window pane out there and put it on a solar panel. It'll break. It'll get weak, and the first hailstorm you have, it'll break. So it takes energy to do that stuff. Where are you going to get that energy?
I mean,
fossil fuels.
Yep. And the reliability and, of course, storage of the energy has been one of the, besides everything else you mentioned, the biggest just logistical implementation hurdle in between the idea of renewable source energy and then, of course, actually putting it in place and making it widespread. There are some interesting experiments happening in our region. I want to say megawatt scale, but not like 1 megawatt, a test going up at NMSU that I'm aware of. So there's some tests going on with it, but the scalability is the real bugaboo about this whole situation, because if you don't have the ability to time delay the production of the energy to when it's actually being used, sure, you can do something during daylight, but a whole lot of life, particularly modern life, ever since the invention of the incandescent light bulb, has happened at night, at least in this country. So if you're not able to deal with that, it's kind of dead in the water.
Okay. One of the things that Raul brought up was the industrial complex, military industrial complex. From what I understood, and I heard him say before, he was against that. Now he's in favor for it, because now they're calling it a certain thing, public-private cooperation. Another word for that is fascism.
Anytime the government steps in, I mean, at best, it's going to be picking winners and losers. I mean, I guess at a certain point, I'd be okay with subsidies, promoting certain ways, trajectories, one thing, but actually getting involved in saying that, well, you're not allowed to do one thing, yeah, that's where I'm going to get more and more unhappy.
Okay, well, that's exactly what they did with the oil industry, because there's enough oil out there, we can still do it, but when they say they put out the permits, you know how much insurance they're charging to even just have a water truck out there in the oil fields? Just insurance, $1 million a year. $1 million a year for insurance for a water truck. You're talking like a truck that hauls. You guys seen them around here? They got a big tank on the back of it. It's not the tractor trailer one, just a straight truck. $1 million a year, 80-gallon barrel water truck. $1 million a year. Okay, so they're pricing the people out so they can't do it. because they're putting regulations on it.
And I think that's going to come back to bite them and, of course, us in the butt when it comes to it, because if they're doing this regardless of what the realities on the ground are, if we're ready to actually make a transition as the coast will be, even if it says that, the coast will be fine, it'll be the center of America, they'll just be, they'll have to deal with it until they decide to go there. Yeah, I don't see that working out at any level, electorally, socially, lack of riots in the streets level. Yeah, it's not going to be a good time for anyone involved. And let's just hope it doesn't get to that point. But let's just say the optimistic side of me is waning when we discuss this subject a lot here. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. We got to take that last break of the hour here right now. Coming out of the break, we'll tell you, of course, what we got coming up for you. And, of course, what we got more of those contests. This was a gentle reminder. So stay tuned for Talk El Paso after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Checking your El Paso freeways on the 54 Patriot southbound. There's a crash with injuries at Montana Avenue. It is blocking the two right lanes. Stay to the left. I-10 eastbound at Paisano. A stalled vehicles blocking the right shoulder. Injury accident. Police still working on that. Copia Street northbound at Gateway. And a crash reported Dyer Street northbound at Ellerthorpe Avenue. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples Print and Marketing Services help small business print big with wide format signs and banners. Right now, get $10 off custom printed signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. Offer ends 7/2. Visit staples.com/this is your sign for details. This is your sign to print big at Staples.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is a leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
This is Matt Crowder live at the gas station on 41st Street, reporting on those skyrocketing gas prices. Excuse me, miss, are you buying less gas now because of the high prices?
Oh, I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute, are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas.
Well, does that actually add up to anything?
I've made around $200.
Wow. Well, there you have it. Stop paying full price for gas. Download the free Upside app and get real cash back every time you buy gas. This is Matt Crowder Radio News Network. Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code DRAG for a $5 bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code DRAG for a $5 bonus on your first tank. That's code DRAG.
M1EP.com. Superior multifamily property management services citywide.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk, rounding the bend for the last bit of our show here for today. But, of course, don't be worried. We'll be back tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m., as we are every Monday through Friday right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Coming up for you, that interview that I've been teasing somewhat, as we've had a few intervening things, but going to be talking about, well, rubber hitting the road locally on some of these issues. Going to be having a conversation with the organization and proponents behind the El Paso Climate Charter, what it is, what they're asking for, and of course, we'll be taking y'all's response on it. So be sure to tune in for that tomorrow here on the program. We're getting some slightly more, focus on it in recent days here. So what would it be that you're actually going to be able to vote for on our local ballot come November, or potentially will if their petition drive is successful? Have reason to believe it will be. We'll get into all of that. So that'll do it here for the day. Stay tuned for more Talk El Paso tomorrow here on the program. I have been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank everyone who has tuned in, called in, commented, been a part of the show. Seriously, y'all are what help make this work as we continue our mission to talk about the things that affect us here in the borderlands. So stay safe out there, particularly with those winds and weather. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Checking your El Paso freeways on the 54 Patriot southbound. There's a crash with injuries at Montana Avenue. It is blocking the two right lanes. Stay to the left. I-10 eastbound at Paisano. A stalled vehicles blocking the right shoulder. Injury accident. Police still working on that. Copia Street northbound at Gateway. And a crash reported Dyer Street northbound at Ellerthorpe Avenue. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
They're here, circling over your head, and are tracking you down. You feel overwhelmed, like you can't escape. You need a solution to get your back taxes filed, to put your life back on track. You need someone who can keep the vultures at bay and work directly with the IRS to leverage every opportunity to settle your debt. Edward Areola of United Financial Services is licensed to represent you before the IRS. Don't let the IRS threaten you. You should never need to speak to them directly. Edward does that for you. United Financial Services will help settle your entire IRS tax debt for up to 85% off the original amount owed, including penalties and interest if you qualify. United Financial Services, family owned in El Paso, can be a lifesaver for you. Call 915-500-3255. 915